Hey everybody, this is Andrea Paquette, president and co-founder of the Stigma-Free Society. Thank you everyone for joining us today, whether you're watching with us or after the fact. We're very excited to have you here. And today I have an amazing guest who I would love to welcome, Jayne Krull. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you. I've never been called amazing. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Astounding and knowledgeable. We're so excited to talk to you today. I
Thank
feel
you.
like you have a very valuable background, and yeah, I'm very excited to have you.
Thank you,
And
Pat.
yeah, no problem. And so, for everybody about the Stigma-Free Society, we're a registered Canadian charity located out of Vancouver. We have staff all around Canada, and it has been an honor to be providing mental health education in schools, in rural, remote, and Indigenous communities where we reach as far and wide with our message as possible, and also providing toolkits for educators, school counselors, and parents, guardians, and caregivers. And this particular segment is going to be housed on our Rural Mental Wellness Toolkit, and we're really excited to provide more content that is relevant to agricultural communities, remote communities, and alike. All right, so let's get into it. Jayne, I'm going to read your bio, and everyone seems to hate this part, but you're just going to have to sit through it, all right? All right. So you have a very impressive bio. Jayne Krull works in the Division of Agricultural Development at the Wisconsin Department of Agricultural, Trade, and Consumer Protection. She leads the Wisconsin Farm Center, a team of specialists who provides support and assistance for farmers across the state, helping with issues such as business and financial planning, transition and succession planning, production concerns, starting or exiting farming, conflict resolution, and counseling services. Jayne also oversees numerous agricultural marketing and development programs at DATCP. So welcome.
Thank you.
Is there anything maybe that you wanted to add to that bio? I was thinking perhaps something more personal, like what are your passions and why did you feel like it was, a good thing to come here today?
Sure. I guess something I'll add is that I grew up on a family farm right here in Wisconsin. However, in my life right now, I'm a single mom of three, and I'm one of those people who is removed from the farm, right? So more and more, obviously, there's less farms, and some farms are consolidating, getting bigger, etc. I'm an example of someone who's removed from the farm, but I'm still very passionate about farming, and I want to help farmers and agriculture in any way possible. So that's what we're doing at Wisconsin Farm Center. I think that's the crux of it. I formerly worked at DACAP. DACAP is because we have such a long name, Department of Agriculture, Trade,
Yeah.
we're known as DACAP. So I formerly worked here back in the 90s, 95 to 2003 in the international area, trying to grow Wisconsin agriculture when it comes to exporting. So that was a different way I was trying to make a difference in agriculture to grow the demand for Wisconsin agricultural products. So this is my second stint at DACAP. I've been here 2 years now leading the Wisconsin Farm Center and involved with some other marketing programs as well.
Nice. And so starting off, how did you get involved initially with the Division of Agricultural Development at the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture? So DATCAP.
Yeah. I honestly, if you would have asked me in college, I don't think I would have thought, oh, I'm going to work for the government someday, right? But I do work for the state government now, and I just fell upon it. Agriculture is like a little fishbowl, right? Like, a lot of people, and through networking, this job opportunity came up years ago with DACAP, and then I went out to the private sector after I left DACAP. I was here for 8 years previously, international, and then it led me back here. I was working in the private sector for a large dairy equipment company. So the big equipment that milks the dairy cows. I used to work with that company. That's a big global supplier in the world of milking equipment. And so unfortunately, a layoff led me here today to where I was looking for another job opportunity and happened to come across someone I know in the industry, and she talked me into coming back. So I'm really happy to be here. There's really great people here who are hardworking and happy to be here working on growing Wisconsin agriculture and even sustaining some of the industry we have now, which is a lot that we do in the farm center. A lot of farmers are struggling, and we want to keep them in business.
Yeah. And I was wondering, like, why is it important for you to work in the field of agriculture? What is it about it that really drives you?
I think what drives me is having grown up on a farm. I'll give you an example. A lot of farmers we interviewed in some focus groups we did recently, when they talked about why they farm and how long have they been farming. So many farmers said, oh, I've been farming since I was 5 years old. I've been farming since I was 8 years old. You
Wow.
wouldn't hear people say that in other industries, right? So,
Yeah.
but that really is the case. It's ingrained in you. You start working on the farm at a young age, and some people love it. Not everybody does. It's not for
Hmm.
everybody, but for me, I really loved seeing the crops grow, seeing an animal thrive and prosper and be born and
Yeah.
that type of thing. And it just got in my blood where I wanted to be involved in farming in any way possible. When we were getting to the point of college age, I actually wanted to come back to the farm, but we didn't want to expand or get bigger. My brother was already taking over the farm. So yeah, I did not come back to the farm, but I knew I could fuel my passion in other ways to try to help agriculture.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And when it comes to business endeavors, I know we're going to get into mental health and counseling in just a second, but I was curious around the helping farmers with the agricultural sector with business endeavors. Like, what does that look like?
Well, I'll give an example. In our division here, we do a lot of one-on-one consulting with companies that are just starting up food businesses. That could be crop grower, etc. So
Yeah.
we work with them on financial scenario, writing business plans, anything from grant opportunities, federal or state, that type of thing. So we help
Yeah.
them to start a business, to thrive in the current business, that type of thing. So that's really the
Yeah.
case across the whole division. With the farm center, it's a little different in that the farmers have been farming for so long, and many of them are just trying to maintain. Wisconsin is actually
Mm,
the highest in the country for farm bankruptcies right now. Unfortunately, it's a statistic we really don't want.
yeah.
So we are dealing with a lot of farmers who are financially struggling. Unfortunately, sometimes they call us as a last resort. They can't get financing or that type of thing, but we try to help who we can. And with all that farm stress comes a lot of mental health or stress issues that we also now
Yeah, I was
just
thinking
gotten
that.
involved in the last few
Yeah.
years through some legislative money from Governor Evers, as well as now a new federal grant that we got from USDA. We're able to offer some services in that as well.
Mm,
So we're excited to be able to offer that because we have an 800 line. Thousands of farmers call us a year for anything they need. They may just be looking for a resource in the state, or they may need some mediation counseling, that type of thing. And we've always sensed that the stress level is getting higher and higher every year. So that's why we had proposed this legislative money a few years ago. Luckily, the legislature passed that, and now that's continued to build. So we're happy about that.
wow. And with counseling, is it business counseling? Is there personal counseling? And what does that look like?
It is business counseling in the farm center specifically. However, I will say that a lot of farmers, because of the desperation of their finances, sometimes they meld it all together, right? So their personal
Mhm.
finances are sometimes their business finances as well. But mainly, it is the business finances because farming
Right.
is a business like any other. I always say a farmer wears many different hats. They're meteorologist, geneticist, chemist. They do so many different things. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, impact on farmers with all of the stress, and we're talking about mental health here at the Stigma-Free Society. And I was wondering, in your experience, what kind of challenges, mental health challenges, do you see farmers facing right now?
Yeah, farmers have some stress challenges are undeniable and can't be helped, right? But first one, unpredictable weather, right? We can't control that. But, if you think of any typical job, a job any of you listening may have, does the rain affect your wage or whether you're going to be able to work that day, that type of thing?
Hmm.
So there's unpredictable weather, of course. But some of the unique things to farming is extremely volatile market pricing right now. For instance, we're the dairy state here in Wisconsin. We have extremely volatile milk pricing. Um, So I try to explain it to people that aren't in farming, think about what you make every paycheck. Now all of a sudden it's 40% less, just like that. Or the next time it may be 10% up. It's just extremely volatile. Whereas most people in my career, my salary has slowly built, right? But it's all over the place with farming. Some of the other challenges are labor. Right now, even before COVID, labor was a big issue for farmers, finding good qualified labor and consistent labor that will stay on the farm. And not as many people interested in working on farms. So that's always a challenge with farming.
Yeah.
Another thing is just the generational factor of farming. I'll say that I think the statistic is 98% of farms are family owned. Nowadays, you see larger farms, right? A lot of the farms, the difference now is if a farmer has 3 offspring, let's say, daughters or sons, and they used to all go off and do their own farm, right? Now farms are consolidating, so they're forming LLCs. So it may look like a corporation, but it's actually still a family farm. So 98% of farms are still family owned. But with that, farming with your family causes a lot of stress, right? There's a lot of dynamics there, and especially with financial pressures. Farming is extremely volatile when it comes to the financial pressures, but you also have the generational expectations. Many farms in Wisconsin are 3rd, 4th, 5th generation owned. So now you're responsible for carrying on that legacy, and now you're going to be the one who fails. That's extremely stressful for some farmers and farm families. So that's another stress I would mention. The long and strenuous hours of farming. You don't get Christmas off or Thanksgiving coming up, right? You still have to feed the animals, milk the cows, etc. It's extremely long hours, and there's time pressure to get harvest in, that type of thing. Farming is also very isolating. Even before COVID, COVID's only impacted that more, where sometimes some farmers who are doing it all on their own, the only people they see are the feed salesman that comes to farm or the milking equipment technician. So it can be really isolating that they almost become too ingrained in their work and don't take a break. And that's something that's difficult as well.
So that work-life balance, that's something we talk about on a special section on the Rural Mental Wellness Toolkit, and tips on how to do that, because as you're saying, farmers a lot of time will just work through and not even take a break. So people aren't thinking about their mental health at all in a lot of ways. And when you're naming all those stressors, it's quite an impact on people's wellness and their mental health. But are you seeing an openness out there at all for people, farmers seeking mental health supports?
There's a big stigma with farmer mental health, with farmers for going to get help, right? I think it's more than the average type of industry. Frankly, maybe I'm biased, but I do feel like farmers are very stoic. They've been raised to be tough and to not cry and that type of stuff. They go through hard times and they don't show it, right? So there's a stigma with that. Also, farmers don't want to be seen. A lot of them live in small communities. They don't want to be seen going to the local counselor or that type of thing. It gets even down to that. So there is a stigma. I do think it's getting better as the younger generation is coming up. Even though we don't have as much of the younger generation coming up, I do think it's getting better. In fact, a recent big survey that was done by the American Farm Bureau Federation had a lot of great information. And they said that in the past year, 3 out of 4 or 75% of rural adults say mental health is very important. So that was interesting. That was more than I would have expected. So I think we're making progress on that. But just in general, because we are working with counseling services in the farm center now, it is hard to reach out to help. We offered a 24/7 line. We're in our 2nd year of that now, that's staffed with stress counselors, that's completely dedicated to Wisconsin farmers. And we haven't gotten as many calls as I thought we would. We're still glad it's there because we definitely have helped some people, but I feel like they're out there, they're just not making that call. So that's a struggle for us, and we know that they're stressed. And even when we're talking to farmers about their finances or mediation, some of the other services we provide, we know they're stressed. They're telling us their problems on the phone. We've even had calls, they're talking suicidal, but we still can't get them to make that call. So still struggling, but making progress.
Don't mean to put you on the spot or anything, but I was wondering, What other things can we do to support our farmers when it comes to their mental health? Like having a call line is a really great idea. Do you have any thoughts around that at all?
I I feel like it's getting better as well as far as having resources. I think that farmers feel the general mental health counselor field either doesn't understand them or they're afraid. Like there's a stigma with counseling, right, among
Yeah.
farmers. Like, what's going to happen? Are my kids going to be taken away if they are they going to send me somewhere? That type of stuff. That you
Yeah.
get those kind of comments. But I think we're making progress. We are
Mhm.
offering more resources specific to farmers. We have counselors who understand farming and have worked with farmers before. We have a dedicated telecounselor now who will do online sessions so they don't even have to leave the farm and clean up. A lot of them say it's too much of an effort to shower, and because, obviously they're working around some smelly conditions sometimes, they need to clean
Yeah.
up. So they love that. The telecounseling is going well. So we also offer vouchers so they can take them or leave them. We give them vouchers they could use with a network we have in the state of over 200 counselors who will accept the vouchers. Everything's free and confidential. So we are seeing an increase in those services as well.
Mhm.
So we think they're reaching out. And I feel like if we continue to offer these resources, it will get better. Another thing that just general people can do when you're talking to farmers, if you know farmers, is try to encourage them to get out. Hey, I hope to see you at that basketball game this weekend. I remember when we did the farmer focus groups, one of the farmers said that, like, what do you do to relieve stress or get away from the farm? He's like, sometimes just going to the town football game, the Friday night football game is a huge stress relief if I can get there once a month or something like that. So invite people out. If you see somebody, invite them to the diner, the local diner, that type of stuff. Just reach out and see if they need help. And there's also a lot of trainings offered in the state now for like question, persuade, refer, mental health first aid you could take advantage of. And when I took that training myself, I learned about the right way to phrase things and how to ask, hey,
Yeah.
are you okay, in the
Yeah.
right way.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing, I personally have bipolar disorder, which is a big reason why I ignited this charity 10 years ago, wanting to just help other people. And one of the things when people tried to help me, when they go at you with advice, I would always just cringe. And sometimes I really just wanted to hear, how can I support you?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really powerful, and just wanted to put that out there because I know that helped me personally. And I've been told by many people with mental health issues that they like that. It
Yeah.
just creates a safe space, right?
That's right.
So we have a lot of stigma, but what can people do, whether it's the person themselves who's experiencing a mental health issues or those around them, to help alleviate this and overcome this in the way the best that they can?
I would say the best way is to reach out. I feel like a lot of the farm stress is related to finances, related to farm family dynamics. Within a lot of farm families, they're getting resentful on each other, they're not communicating.
Mhm.
So I feel like reaching out, even for some of those core services we provide in the farm center, for instance, mediation, financial counseling, will help alleviate some of your stress. Even if you don't reach out to an actual counselor through our counseling services, reach out to us. I know that a lot of states, and hopefully in your provinces in Canada as well, have those types of government services set up. But I
Mhm.
think sometimes people are a little hesitant to call us because we're considered government, right? But
Yeah.
that's why we really try to have a unique identity for the farm center. That everything's free and confidential. Just please reach out.
Yeah, that's huge, reaching out and having somewhere to go to and knowing that it's okay. What about like the people in their lives? Like, what can people do to support somebody who's going through a mental health problem? I know you said getting mental health first aid training. And is there anything else you can think of that
I
might
think
be helpful?
Yeah, being with other people as much as possible
Yeah.
is a good thing. We have
Yeah.
online farm support groups as well where people can come on and just talk to other farmers. They can be totally anonymous on Zoom as well, not give their name and not even show their picture if they don't want to, so they could get more comfortable with it at first. Also, we have farmers in the state who are doing peer support training, so they're learning how to lead groups or how to talk to groups of farmers. Um, I know that there's one organization in the state that just meets at the local churches to talk to each other. It was
Mhm.
a woman whose husband died by suicide. He was a farmer, and she's getting
Mm.
groups together. So I feel like there's more resources like that. They just need
Mhm.
to reach out for the help. But the more they can be around other people, the football game example, that type of thing, I feel is kind of replenishes them and gets them back
Yeah.
to work, but doesn't have this heavy cloud over them of all the pressures they're under.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And at Stigma-Free Society, we also offer in Canada facilitator peer support training for rural residents, not just agricultural, but for people living in remote or the rural communities. So I think hearing what's going on down in the States is very interesting. It's a very similar type model, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And in talking to people in these communities, like I often hear the best counseling is around the coffee shop table with friends,
Yeah.
right? And the living room tables and having those groups. And so that's why when you mentioned the facilitator training to ignite those peer support groups across these communities, very, very effective, I feel.
Mhm. Yeah, I think before COVID, you could go into any little local diner, and sometimes in the morning you find a group of farmers at a table, right? But so
Yeah.
during COVID, they didn't have that to go to, right? And that made a huge difference for them. So
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right, Jayne, I really enjoyed talking with you today. It was really nice meeting you. I was curious. Did you want to add anything maybe that we haven't covered at this point?
uh, I
Because I
can't.
know you said you had some great stats and you read one off, and maybe do you have any more great
Yeah,
information
we just
for
got
us?
talking, and I didn't get to those today. No, I just some of the prevalence of the extra farm stress I'll mention is farmers who die by suicide is alarmingly higher than
Yeah.
typical. 450 farmers died by suicide in the Midwest from 2014 to 2014 to 18, for instance.
Yeah.
And we're losing a lot of farms in our state, and that's causing additional stress. We lost 818 dairy farms. We're known for being dairy state, right? In 2020 alone, 10% of our dairy farms we lost, 818 farms. That's a lot of farmers going out of business. They have no ability to imagine their life without farming. So that's something we're going to be working on in the future, is trying to show that there is life after farming. We are going to be offering some career counseling, that type of thing, as they try to figure out where else they fit. And there definitely are lots of areas you can go in agriculture. It's a big industry here in the state.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I thought I'd mention
No,
as far
that's
as that.
very interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
I was curious, as a last closing statement, do you have any words of encouragement or some nuggets of wisdom from your learnings and your knowledge in this area when it comes to mental health and farming and
Mhm.
agriculture? Is there anything you'd like to say?
Well, first of all, I'm pretty optimistic that the stigma around mental health and farming will improve through some of these services that we're offering and other organizations are offering. And this isn't just in our state, this is across the board, across the country, from what I've seen. And so I am optimistic that the younger generation coming up is a lot more open. I feel like when I was in my 20s, there wasn't nearly as much talk about your mental health. So I'm encouraged
Yeah.
by that just generally. And another positive thing I'll talk about, I just talked to some social workers in the state recently, and I presented all these terrible statistics about farming and how hard it is. And I'm like, it's not all doom and gloom, right? Farmers love
Yeah.
what they're doing. They don't want to do anything else. And I don't have a good statistic for this, but there's a lot of need to
Hmm.
keep farming, right? We need to feed the world. And when you look at growing population numbers, I wish I had a good number, but we need to keep doing that. So we
Yeah.
want to keep as many farmers farming and doing what they love to do as possible.
No, it makes so much sense. And when I look at your bio and how we talked about the financial planning, succession planning, conflict resolution, I feel all those types of services just really help farmers' mental health because as you were saying, it's providing help in many areas, but when it comes down to it, you're just really trying to make their life easier.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, good work.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But thank you
Yeah.
for what you're doing. There is a stigma we're trying to break in farming, especially because farming there's a lot of the older generation. I believe the average age of farmers in the US is 57 and a half years old. That's the average age. And only 8% are 35 and or under. So when I talked about that younger generation being more open to accessing mental health services, tackling their stress issues, we need to work with all generations, right? But especially that older generation, because that is so prominent in farming.
Yes, for sure. And I think, if mental illness or mental health challenges doesn't come our way personally, then we often know somebody who it does come upon, right?
Right.
And yeah, that's how we can all support each other. So thank you so much, Jayne. Please stay on the line after. I'd like to thank you personally.
Okay.
And yeah, so thank you so much. And thank you to everybody watching the Stigma-Free Society Facebook Live, where we also house our YouTube lives on our YouTube channel too. So please come and subscribe. This particular Facebook Live is related to farming, agricultural, mental health in the remote rural communities. And we truly do hope you will explore our toolkit. And we really just want to help break down that stigma. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.